it's a very interesting thing that I'm talking to the teachers here and to the researchers. I do remember when I started my life as a researcher, my teacher once snapped at me and said, if you can't speak it simply, you probably haven't understood your work. So better understand it so that you can speak like, something that everyone can understand. The problem of research actually emerges from there. And I am really grateful for ICSSR, its member secretary, Professor Malhotra, chairman, very mission-driven chairman that they have now, Professor Kumar, and the whole team of youngsters and, the officials from top to bottom. I cannot name them all, but they have created an environment in ICSSR where we are forced to think about transdisciplinarity as not as a paradigm, but as a very naturalistic base and embedded philosophy of any research that you undertake, whether in science or in social science or in commerce or in business. So this is one very interesting aspect. I really thank you all for giving me this opportunity of speaking on transdisciplinarity here. I particularly treat transdisciplinarity not as a subject but as a mission. And why this is as a mission? Because we have been, which started in the morning with the talk of Professor Malhotra, then Professor Kumar also said the same thing, and Venkaiah Naidu ji actually opened up the whole debate on what is happening by confining and compartmentalizing research in silos. We are all working, we're doing a lot of research. You'll be amazed the kind of research which is coming out of ICSSR, the bound volumes which are occupying all the spaces in all the university libraries, and who goes and looks into them? Not a single IAS officer or the district magistrate or the secretary of a ministry ever says, please, you did a good research, please come and advise me on what you did. It's not happening. Nobody even cares. It's done, it's over. The research which actually stays is a research which is transdisciplinary. And let's talk about it. Let's discuss it today. It started as a movement in Europe many years ago. In 1992, it became established as a separate department in UNESCO. But ironically, we are starting it in India now, even though we are the progenitors, we are the beginners, we are the ones who laid the first seed on transdisciplinarity in this country. Maybe if we believe in Nicholas Kazana's work from Greece, it is more than 10,000-year-old history in this country. But we are ironically bringing it up on a social platform today. Now, let's come back, to why good research is transdisciplinary or why a transdisciplinary research is good. It's vice versa. I could have asked you, some of you, to respond on that, but keep your questions. We'll talk in the end. This is about, you see a problem. The problem is, I'm just talking about a very layman's language, and that's what we are supposed to do in research. There is a problem. It could be a problem that the child fails in the exam. It could be a problem that there is a storm in the city. It could be a problem that the house has fallen off somewhere, and the media comes with all the reporting the next day. How do you perceive a problem? When you perceive a problem, you automatically perceive it in your own narrow dimension. A civil engineer would say something else, a politician would say something else, political scientist, sociologist, anthropologist, and you have a stream of people who would perceive it in different way. What is happening while everyone is perceiving? While everyone is perceiving, it is actually they are disentangling, not that they are speaking lies. It's not that what is true for a politician is not actually true, and what is true for a political scientist is actually true. It's not like that. Or what a civil engineer is saying is actually all hush up of the matter. It's not that. There is truth in everything that everyone is saying, but the problem is They are disentangling. And when they disentangle, you take out the petals of the rose and the rose dies out. There's no rose. If there are no petals, there are no rose. So when you disentangle a problem, then you actually try to walk into the dark dungeon of a cave you know nothing about. And there you enter it because you compartmentalized, because you are thinking in a fragment. And so all you see is darkness. And you create knowledge out of darkness, produce it as a research, and then get degrees out of it or a publication out of it, but it is of no use to the society. Finding solutions. The last step that one should have taken is just left out, because finding solutions can never be without involving everyone else. Every discipline has to come together to find a solution, and this is what transdisciplinarity expects out of research. Now, endorsement of transdisciplinary research. Is something wrong with this? What's happening? Is somebody here? Okay. Everyone's dependence on technology is going so much, and the technology is being operated by one satellite up above in the sky. Nobody knows about it. And if somebody actually destroys the satellite by creating an ATS, then we'll have no knowledge. So let the knowledge stay with people rather than going online. This endorsement of transdisciplinary research. The endorsement of transdisciplinary research started with, actually, we are forced to say it started with a French psychologist, Jean Piaget. And when he did that in 1972, he was actually looking at the processes of intelligence, the cognitive intelligence, and he said, what actually forms intelligence? It is no particular compartmentalization that can explain intelligence. Intelligence is transdisciplinary, and so he gave the word transdisciplinary to our literary thoughts. Then after Jean Piaget, we have other like Mittler-Strauss from Germany, and then we have another one coming forward in Niccolo from UNESCO. He is from France, but the thing that he brought in was much wider for research in the universities, because he opened up centers of transdisciplinarity in a number of universities in France, Germany, Switzerland, and a number of other places. The research was because he was a health scientist. So much that he did was regarding the health. And there's something, very closely linked to the knowledge which he was sharing in Europe. We come back, we compare it, we have very little comparable research going on in social sciences. It is very similar to Charak Samhita. And this Charak Samhita is one particular, scripture, a volume in Indian philosophy, ancient Indian literature, which combines human system with all the knowledge that is required for a good life to live. These subjects which are very divided, these subjects are actually, the boundary walls are illusionary. And so much so that at one point it even says that why don't you reach to that particular point by disentangling knowledge where you find the truth, and that one point reveals everything in every other discipline. And that's also one of the areas, it's all right, if it doesn't work, it's all right. All right, now this is coming back to our ancient literature in Indian philosophy, Indian past, and we take a little time off from the European literature to say that this is very much available in our country and in our past. And here we have, the standard scriptures of Veda, Shanti Parva, especially Shanti Parva has 2 huge chapters on transdisciplinarity. And this Mundaka Upanishad is a fantastic reading on transdisciplinarity. This is where, they combine to say that, how do you shave off the irrelevance? When you shave off the irrelevance, you are actually nothing but transdisciplinary. And to shave off the irrelevance is an important thing, because we can't shave off irrelevance because we have too much of irrelevance amongst our own, mental status, our attitudes, our behavior, because we are growing up in an environment and we can't liberate ourselves from the environment which is creating our existence. And this is the reason why much of the research is ethnocentric. It is created for the sake of creation. We look at the society in a very fragmented manner. We look at caste, we look at religion, we look at regions, we look at languages, and that is one reason because of which we are not able to see the true reality. There's also a problem. The problem is that research is also driven away from spirituality. Spirituality is not a religion. Spirituality is not, something which is an ideology. It's about good life, it's about ethics, it's about integrity. I'm glad in the morning they spoke about it. The dialogue did emerge that research ought to be with ethics and integrity. This is an important aspect, and it's important that when we talk about transdisciplinarity, we also talk about spiritualism, which is about shedding your self for the sake of a larger good. Now, how do we churn the complexities? The fundamental problem of transdisciplinarity is that it looks at complexities, which is fundamental to transdisciplinary. To be transdisciplinary is to be dealing with complex whole. That complex whole is a problem which is again created problem. Science, the Industrial Revolution, the era of inventions, we started specializing and we started looking at electricity, electronics and mechanical, and these kind of areas started dividing knowledge. It was important. It was an important phase, and we can't say that specialization was not important. It was important to grow a particular kind of a science. But after the growth of a particular kind of a science, you cannot disassociate the growth of science and ideas to the existence of humanity. This is what happened in research, and we are trying to bring it back. The first complexity is created out of data management, because everyone is collecting data as per one's own desire, one's own inclination. Everything is true, as it said in Love and War. So in research, everything is true. If you need to reject a particular research, you need to have a data opposite to that. And it's so easy to collect data opposite to that, and you can reject the existing research. Administrative structures. The administrative structures which actually take care of that problem, that event, are very, very segregated. Sometimes they are overlapping. Sometimes they are in a state of animosity. Sometimes they are such laggards that you don't even feel like even going to that administrative department. So they carry their own behavioral instincts, as a result of which they are not able to deal with the problem. Then legal framework. Legal framework should be growing all the time, but it doesn't grow because the administration doesn't support it, the researcher doesn't have adequate data to intensify the change. And the last is community empowerment, or the resilience which is required. We need to be constantly connected to the community. In the morning, the address actually mentioned this fact, that we need to be close to the people to actually do good research, and we can't do research in our closed labs. And that is one reason why they always say that scientists only see a little fragment of reality. The social scientist is able to see much wider state of reality. That is one constant dilemma between science and social science, because this fragmentation that came through the science and industrial revolution is broadening up with social sciences, but the social sciences haven't got that kind of a support, so which they can actually broaden it up to come up with knowledgeable research. Now here, I'll show you some images, and you decide how to deal with research in those areas. There is a dam burst. These are some of the pictures from the Kerala study, and I'm going to put the problem to you, and then you see how it is transdisciplinary. There is a dam burst. Now, when the dam bursts, there's a lot of water that comes out. So the dam bursts, water coming out, people have to rush, go away, save yourself. What is the government doing? Where is the Coast Guard? Where is the army? Who are the rescue teams? There's all this debate going on. While the dam is burst, water is coming out. And then the water takes its own course. Water, the kind of a dam, the design of a dam, Idukki Dam, first one to come through, had an arch-shaped dam and design, and that design has its own significance. And then it still went on to Cheruthani and then came down to the town. Water is going down. And there, the debate is going on. It's the burning topic that the dam burst, water is going down. And then, water goes still further. Nobody can stop the ecological and environmental challenges which come. It goes down, it washes off 4 major districts of one state that says and that claims incredible God's home. Here, the water still goes further. Now, can you imagine the volume of this water? This is coming down to a town in Kerala. This is the real photo. Can you imagine, was there a research to say that if the dam would burst, there would be so much of water? There's water, all right, water is coming down, water is going to, submerge many of the places. But did anyone imagine the volume of water, the quantum of water, the rush, the flow, the pressure with which it's going to come down? And look at the people, they are still roaming around, they don't even know. They are not even aware that this is a satellite image, they are not even aware. Everything around the city is going as normal while, you see the major disaster coming from the background. And here, after that, the images of how people dealt with it. Nobody knew what ecology is because nobody thinks about animals. Nobody thinks about those who cannot speak. Now this, the wildlife. Nobody knew that Kerala is 50% wildlife, maybe more than that. And nobody knew that this wildlife is also to be protected. But there is no sensitivity in a researcher because they were only fixed with human beings. And this, we claim that we have been taking care of, this Father Tusker in this country for the temples and for all the religious things. And this is the state that it was pushed to by human intransigence. And then the multitasking scholars. After all this imagery, you come down to what happens in the human world of research. They're coming back to their table and to their laboratories of knowledge. Act now. If you act now, you'll be able to save some. It's destroyed. Whatever ought to be destroyed, it's destroyed. We'll come down to it, what all has been destroyed. There's no return from destruction. And then knowledge mobilization. The researchers are saying, okay, let's put in, because Kerala is the latest thing, let's put in some research, we'll get good funding on that. We should form a team. Oh, let's not form a team because then the fund would be divided. Let's work it out on single PI status. And then people start cashing out of the miseries of an event, of an accident. And there are so many examples that we could put across on this situation. Then the information networks, they start. The newspapers, the TV channels, there's a war of TV channels. We encountered wars of TV channels. We encountered wars of grassroots reporters who were wanting to say something, the other said nothing. When we were there during the floods, we were told very categorically that all these people who are crying their heart out and who are chest beating because, you know, their house is completely submerged, they are sitting on a highway, or they are sitting on a mud, you know, mound of mud and all coconut trees. They would change their complete narrative of the flood once the water recedes and the government assistance comes to their homes. So what should we do? You should, you know, bring a videographer with you and get everything videographed. So we videographed everything. This team is sitting here right in front of me, the youngsters team. We did a massive work on that, of course, with the help of this team, and we got everything recorded. Thanks to the technology that we could record everything. Many of them did change, but they could not change because we have the film with us. So then, much research is based on incomplete information. The information deficit, you know, the term democratic deficit that comes out of political science research is actually basically dependent on information deficit. And that deficit is because nobody knows the neighbor. The center and the state relationship is one. Panchayats and the people is other relationship that we came across. Then we also came across, you know, within the universities there is a problem because one department doesn't want to listen to the other department. The funding department would say, no floods. The GFR rules are going to stay. You may die or you may live. But these rules are cast in stone. So university administration is actually not progressing with the demands of research, as a result of which this is a problem which is happening. You know, we have university administration sitting here, so forgive me for saying that. Then it's happening in all universities. It's not simply one university. Then the government is also non-responsive because the government is the structure of institutions from top to bottom. Say, National Disaster Management Authority, State Disaster Management Authority, and then it comes to the panchayats. Now they are saying orange alert in a village. Panchayats say, what do we know about what is red alert and what is orange and what is yellow alert? We don't know about all these alerts. So the task of going down to people, you've done massive research on all these alert systems. Scientists, you know, crave about creating as much complexity as possible in their research papers. But how does it matter as long as people are still dying with all the massive research? So these panchayat members didn't even know some of the basic facts about law that should have reached them at least 20 days earlier to the disaster. Now, the last part. The last part is that research means you ought to be somewhere. You cannot just end up research like that. 90% of the research which actually is produced out of PhDs in the universities, fuzzy domain, conclusions, recommendations, and if you go through it, you really feel like burning them out. There's a lot of impatience that comes out of that research which is being produced in the universities. I am fortunately part of the NetExplo University Network in Paris, which is the biggest university network in the world, governed by UNESCO. We analyze research. We analyze the supervisors who are conducting that research. And we are sorry to state that universities are not doing their work as they should have done. And I'm glad if universities don't take up transdisciplinarity for their very small, egoistic, narrow thinking, lack of visionary status. At least ICSSR has taken that up, and I'm glad ICSSR will take that further, and it will become another movement as was started in UNESCO. And I was in UNESCO and I said, you please start, revive your, Niculescu is dead now 2 years ago. So there is an award instituted in the name of Niculescu on transdisciplinary research. And if any one of you actually works on transdisciplinary research, creates new volumes of ideas and knowledge, please put it across to UNESCO, because this award is instituted by the name of Niculescu. And I'm sure ICSSR should be one of the contestants for this award. Now, what makes transdisciplinarity different from the regular research? One is solutions. Reach a solution. Tell the government that this is the problem, so this is the solution. This is the solution. If you don't listen to us, then whose responsibility is that? Take them to the court. If you can't take them to the court, have meetings with them. Call them to the university, openly debate. We are doing it in Disaster Research Center in JNU. We are calling those officials across the table, and we are finding them exceptionally good and exceptionally open about sharing knowledge with us and also their shortcomings. And accountability. No research creates accountability, but research should create accountability. It should be clear enough to say this problem occurred. Now, where is this problem? If you're not able to design accountability structure within your research, I think that's no good research, because every problem should be indicating where the problem emerged from. And the last is fair practices. Research should be based on fair practices. It's not a fair practice of plagiarism. It's not a fair practices of managing the funding processes, the grant processes. It's also a fair practices of going little beyond your duty to complete a research. You may be paid a salary, you may be paid some grant to complete your work, but then you also need to take 10 steps further in the name of your country, in the name of humanity. And that's it. Thank you so much.